Welcome back to Vsource SA. We're here with Rich Ashe, Veteran Franchise Advisor, CEO and founder. He's going to be talking to us about veterans franchising in the veteran space today, the opportunities within that space, and how he can support you. He's also a Marine Corps veteran. He teaches boots to business, and he's very active in mentoring veterans. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Rich.
Thank you. How you guys doing? I'm sorry, I'm gonna cut off my head for a second. Forgot my clicker. My name is Richard Ashe, and I'm happy to be here. Got a big crowd out here that I'm talking to. Okay. So, down or up? There you go. About me. I was a United States Marine for 8 years, way back when, in land and time forgotten. But that was kind of the beginning of my career. And my why is when I figured out entrepreneurship and what that was all about, I wanted to help other veterans learn about entrepreneurship in different ways to get into business. So after I did my term in the Marine Corps, I worked for corporate America. I started my own business. I was a partner in the business. I was an entrepreneur. If you don't want to know what an entrepreneur is, it's when you actually get to start a company within a larger organization. And I did that for Xerox Corporation. They wanted to get into the video space. They're a document company. And so they hired me, and I actually got to do a company from ground up, from scratch, and build a whole new company within an organization. The really cool thing about entrepreneurship is there's absolutely no financial risk, right? Which is a wonderful thing, right? So when I wanted to run an advertising campaign, I'd call my guy at Xerox and say, hey, I need $50,000. Then he'd write me a check and I can go do a campaign. But it was a learning experience, like all things. If you have an opportunity, the more learning experiences that you get, the more you can do. So that's a little bit about me. I've been in franchising or playing with franchising for over 20 years now. I know I don't look that old, but I am. I've owned my own franchise. I've participated in building a franchise. And when I had the opportunity to understand all this fun stuff, I said, this is a great way to start a business, right? Before we even get into franchising, the most important thing in starting a business is figuring out what's your why, right? Why do you want to be in business, right? What's your skill set? What do you love to do? What are you great at doing? Who's willing to pay you for those things, right? Because if they're not willing to pay you, you don't have a business. Right? I always like to tell the story. I have a friend has a barbecue every 4th of July, right? And everybody shows up at his house, and they're eating the food, and they say, oh, this is the most wonderful thing in the world. He said, you know, I should start my own restaurant. I said, wait. Before you do that, this is what I want you to do. I want you to, next 4th of July, I want you to put price tags on everything, right? And that's good at the thing, right? And people come in, they'll look at the price tags, they'll look at the food, and then when they get to the end where they have to pay for this stuff, see what's on their plate, see what they're really willing to pay for, right? So everybody liked the ribs, nobody liked the macaroni and cheese, potato salad didn't get eaten at all, right? People got half a corn on the cob. So that's when you kind of sort of know what people are willing to pay for. Everybody will tell you your baby's pretty until they have to pay for the baby, right? So this is really, really important. Figure out what it is. And the other reason it's important is because business is hard. It's complicated, right? You're gonna have good days and you're gonna have bad days. On those bad days, when you're laying in bed, it's 2:30 in the morning, you're staring up at the ceiling and you're trying to figure out what's my next move, your why is gonna help answer those questions, right? If you're laying in bed and you're thinking about, oh my God, what have I done? How do I get out of this? You're already on the path to failure, right? So you should be thinking about one more call, one more meeting. Who can I partner with? Where can I get the things that I need, the resources that I need to get my business up and running? That's what your why is all about. Okay. This is the most important part of your why, right? As a business owner, you're battling for 10 cents on a dollar, right? Because when your consumer finishes paying for his house, mortgage, insurance, all that fun stuff, food, medical, that Amazon.com account, right? That you go on and say, oh, I'll just buy this, right? Get your clothing because you have to go out. Your utilities, you live in Texas. For those who live in Texas, AC is probably the most important utility in the world, right? So you have to pay for your utility, and you got that note, right? For us veterans out there, that car you bought back from Germany, you know, this is your note right here, right? So after you get done with all of these things, the consumer has 10 cents, and he has to decide how he's going to spend that 10 cents, right? If you have a restaurant, there's 80,000 restaurants. If you're a plumbing business, you got 80,000 plumbing businesses, right? Why is he going to spend his 10 cents with you? And if you don't have a good why, if you don't connect with your consumer about your why and why you can help solve his problem, and why your solution is better than the other solution that's next door or down the street, then your business is not going to be successful. So that's why your why is so important. People buy things from people they know, like, and trust, right? If they don't know and like and trust you, then they're not going to buy your stuff. So having a strong why is really, really important in what you do, okay? So as an entrepreneur, this is your challenge, right? You have product development. You have proof of concept. You have to make sure you take your product, whatever you develop, and you bring it out to the marketplace and make sure that people like it. Brand design. Everybody knows what the golden arches are, right? McDonald's, right? The green and yellow oval sign, Subway, right? The redheaded chick, Wendy's, right? So branding is really, really important. It's not important in the first engagement, but how do people remember you later on, right? They remember visual stuff. They remember cues and things like that there. So having a design coming out the market is really, really important, right? Market strategy. Where are your customers and how are you going to get to them, right? Back in the day when I was running other people's businesses, right? My marketing strategy was newspaper, radio, and TV. That's it. I didn't have to worry about social media, right? I do a newspaper ad, magazine ad, do a commercial on the radio or TV, bam, I'm good to go, right? I'm reaching the audience, right? Today, you have so many different ways to reach your audience, and you have to understand which channel is most effective, right? Through testing and through trial and error, A/B tests, and all that fun stuff. So having your market strategy is really, really important. For example, I help people invest in franchises. There's nothing I can do in Twitter in 45 characters that's going to convince somebody that they should invest $250,000 in anything, right? So I don't use Twitter, right? Facebook, yeah, that's a good medium. LinkedIn, professional reach out, absolutely, right? My webpage, direct email marketing, I teach classes, education. So you have to figure out what your market strategy is, right? And then, of course, your sales process. How are you going to sell this stuff? Is it going to be online? Is it going to be direct? Is it going to be retail? Do you need to import, export? What's your sales process and your distribution strategy? And then what's your operational process? Because if you don't have an operational process, the first time you hire an employee, he sits around waiting for you to tell him what to do, task by task by task, right? So you need to have a way to replicate what you do so you can move on and work on the business instead of in the business, and your people exactly know what to do. And then when you figure out all this fun stuff, you got to figure out where you're going to get the money to do all this stuff, right? So that is your challenge as an entrepreneur, is to go through this process. This is basically your business plan, bullet pointed out. There's some other stuff that needs to go in there. And then the franchise. The franchise world is pretty simple. A franchiser comes up with an idea and they create a standard operating procedure for how to run that business. McDonald's, right? Makes burgers, right? So they have a whole process from the time the Cisco truck shows up in the back of McDonald's to get the burgers out, in through the process to come out the front end is a Happy Meal, right? It's all documented. It's all ready to go. And they go out and they take that concept and they prove it over and over and over again by creating franchises, right? There's lots of McDonald's franchises. You can probably throw a rock and hit a couple anywhere you're standing, right? And so, and as they prove that and replicate it, they continue to do that over and over and over again, and their business gets better, more streamlined, more efficient as they go along. And then you as a franchisee, you decide one day, you know, I really want to own a burger place. They give you all the standard operating procedures and all the things that you need to replicate what they've already proven works, right? And you are the entrepreneurs competing with the lenders, vendors, and competitors for their mind share, right? So if I'm an entrepreneur and I want to open up a burger place, I go to the beef patty people and I say, you know, I'm opening up a burger place. I need 1,000 patties. And the burger place says, yes, you can have them. They are 36 cents each. McDonald's goes to the burger place and says, you know, I need some burger patties. I have 1 billion served. Well, your patties are going to be 12 cents each, right? So you have to understand what's your unique value proposition and how you're going to market that out to the marketplace and how you're going to offset that 24 cents, right? So this is your competition, right? And then you're all buying, of course, for the same customers who have that dime that they're looking to spend. Okay, so why do businesses fail? Everything 3 through 10 can be solved with good coaches and mentors, good planning, good execution, right? How do you make up for a poor location? Move, right? Make sure you're pick the right location. Poor inventory management. This is a common problem for restaurants, you know, spoilage and other things. That's why banks look for restaurant management experience. All these other things, competition, low sales, unexpected growth, which is kind of both a good and bad thing, right? Can be solved with good coaching, partnerships, training, education. 1 and 2 is your problem, right? Lack of experience. You don't know what you don't know. And when you go out into the marketplace and you're starting to start a business, if you don't know what you don't know, you can't ask questions about those things that you don't know, right? So you learn as you go along. And I've heard the term and I've used the term soft money and hard money, right? Hard money is dollars you watch flying out the window. It's physical stuff that you spend every day. Soft money is the money that's going out the window you don't see. For example, if it takes you an hour to do something, it should take you 5 minutes, you have lost 55 minutes of revenue, right? You don't see it, right? Because that's your time, right? How do you value your time? If you value your time at, you know, $100 an hour, guess what? You just lost $95, right? And if you do that over and over again, where you cannot, when you don't know the things that you need to know in order to be effective, then you're losing soft dollars that are going to impact your bottom line in the future, right? So lack of experience is your soft dollar loss, right? Insufficient capital, right? Going into a business not having enough money to make it to revenue is rough, right? That's kind of the killer for most businesses. And I'll give you an example. Got to adjust for COVID years, but about 8-9 years ago, I worked with a guy. He said, hey, I want to start a digital media franchise. I'm going to do social media, websites, landing pages, and all that fun stuff. Would you look at my business plan? I said, I would love to look at your business plan. I was a marketing guy, right? My last job was vice president of marketing for a global software company. So I said, yeah, I think I can help you out here. And so he sent me his business plan. I took a look at it, and he said, in the first quarter, I'm going to have 5 customers. In the second quarter, I'm going to have another 5. In the third quarter, I'll have 10. By the end of the year, I should have 20 customers, at least, minimum. I'm planning on more, but I'm being conservative. I said, well, I don't think you're being conservative enough. He says, no, I got people, they're lined up, they're waiting to sign the contract, I'm good to go. So first quarter, I gave him a call. I said, so how are we doing on the business plan? I said, did you get your 5 customers? He says, no, I got 1. I said, well, you're 4 short. How are you kind of compensating for that? He says, no, I'm not worried. They just need some more T's and C's. They wanted to check this out and check that out. Next quarter, I should be caught up. So next quarter, I called him up at the end of the quarter. I said, you should have 10 customers. Where are you at? I've got 3. I said, well, what happened to the other 7? He says, well, they're kind of pushing back a little bit. They want this and that, and I can't do that right now. I'm promising them future stuff. I said, well, how you doing on money? He said, well, money's a little tight. I'm kind of getting to the bottom. I called him at the end of third quarter and I said, so how are we doing? He says, I got 10 customers. I said, you're supposed to be at 15 or 20, somewhere around there. He says, yeah, well, I had a little setback here. I said, financially, are you okay? I mean, can you do it? He said, well, I solved the problem. I went out and got me a part-time job at Home Depot at night. So now I'm taking the money I'm making on my part-time job and I'm putting it back into the business. I should be fine by the end of fourth quarter. So fourth quarter came, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, Happy New Year. Called him at the beginning of the next year. I said, so how's business? He says, I got great news. I'm the manager at Home Depot, right? So he ran out of money before he can actually reach his revenue goals that he needed to sustain his business, right? So insufficient capital. Another example is I was working with a gentleman and I was helping him invest in a franchise, and he went to the bank, business plan, all that fun stuff. And the bank said, hey, I love this. I think this is a great idea. I'm going to approve you for $250,000. Guy said, call me up. He said, hey, the bank called. I'm good for $250. I'm only going to take $150. And I'm like, have you lost your mind? He says, no, I don't want to carry the debt for $250,000. That's too much money. I don't want to be responsible for a month. I said, think about that. Take the $250, take the extra $100 that you don't need, stick it in an interest-bearing account, and then 30 days from now, the bank is going to be calling you to talk about their first payment. You can pay it out of the $100,000 and continue to grow your business, because it's going to be 12, 18, 24 months before you're actually generating revenue to support your business. He said, that's an okay idea. I said, okay, well, do what you can, but, take the money that you can, take as much money as you can get and learn how to manage your money and invest your money so you can leverage it as you go through business. So these are the two things you have to really, really look for. You don't know what you don't know. Find people who do. Make sure you have a lawyer, an accountant, a good team of people around you that can advise you on how to start and run your business. Okay. So I usually have a classroom full of people. So I'm going to ask my classroom full of people, can you identify all of the acronyms on this board? You cannot. You can. You can. Every one of them. You can only do one? Oh, you can only do one that you can't do. Okay, good. Well, anyway, most veterans coming out of the military, most people in general coming out of the corporate world cannot talk this language, right? And one of the things you need to do is learn the language, because when you go to the bank, you spent months, weeks and months on this beautiful business plan, and you bring it to the bank and you're holding on to it tight and you slide it across the table to your banker, and the banker opens it up. He reads the executive summary real quick, pops over to the financial section, and he says, so what is your expected EBITDA at the end of the first year? And you look at him with a blank stare, your conversation has ended, right? Because he knows that EBITDA means earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization, right? And if you don't know that, he's not going to do business with you. He will talk about your family and where you've been and all that fun stuff. And in 15 minutes, he'll say, don't call us, we'll call you after we've reviewed this, and you'll never hear from them again, okay? So you need to know the language, right? That's part of the I don't know what I don't know. So this is really, really important that you go out and go to classes, get some books, whichever way you like to learn the best, learn the language that you're going to need to speak when you get to the bank, as well as your marketing people, right? If your marketing website people say, so give me your USP, and you look at them like, well, your marketing budget just went up by 10 grand, right? He said, oh, I got a guy who doesn't know what his USP is. Well, we'll help you define your USP for a mere $10,000, right? Right? You need to know this. Your unique sales proposition, unique value proposition. What's your SEO strategy? All of these things are language that you need to talk to the people who are going to help produce your business, right? So why is all that important, right? That's complicated. Starting a business, if you've never started a business before, is really complicated. A lot of moving parts, a lot of things that need to get done, a lot of things you need to know. Right? So that's why I'm here, right? I discovered franchising. I was a partner. I was an entrepreneur, and I knew all my life that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And my why was very simple when I got into entrepreneurship. I started a media distribution company. You know what that is? No, media distribution company. I was a paper boy. Right? I distributed media. Right? I was 9 years old, and my why was white high top Converse sneakers. Right? My allowance was like 50 cents. You know how long you got to save 50 cents to get $10 sneakers? It's a long, long time. Right. So I didn't want to wait. So I went out and I started my business. I went and sourced some New York Times newspapers. I had a nice Stingray bike, put a bag on the front. And I went out and found some customers, and I would go out and throw papers, do collections, do marketing for new clients. I didn't know it at the time, couldn't spell entrepreneur at the time, but that was basically entrepreneurship. That's how I started my first business, so to speak. Right. Later, when I learned what entrepreneurship is, I said, wow, I got a great story to tell. It's a great story. When I went in the Marine Corps, that was the thing that I wanted to live my life that way. You know, if I wanted to play basketball in the morning, I could throw papers in the afternoon. If I wanted to play basketball in the afternoon, I could throw papers in the morning. I could do collections on Friday night or Sunday morning. So I could live my life around the things that I like to do, and do it my way, right? So I started my first business, entrepreneurship, and then I actually went out and I bought a franchise. It was a social media franchise, websites and all that fun stuff, because that was my background. So I really wanted to test the waters. It was a low investment, and I wanted to find out if I could really do this thing and what franchising was all about. I ran that business for about 6 months, 8 months, and I was really bored because it was the life I was trying to get away from. But I knew if I did this, I knew all the technical stuff that I needed to do. What I wanted to understand was how the franchise helped me do these things. And it was very powerful. They gave me training. They gave me all the standard operating procedures. They built my website for me. They helped me put the CRM together and all the things I needed to run the business. And I got to go out and do this stuff, and they would do back-end production of the website and all that fun stuff. So it was really cool. I said, wow, this is really cool, but this is boring, right? So let me go look at some other things. So I actually went back into the workforce. That's how I got to Texas. I got transferred to Houston to do a startup for Compaq Computer Corporation. And while I was at Compaq, as soon as I heard they were going to be bought by HP, I knew I was going to be out of a job. So I said, okay, now's the time. I'm going to actually go out and I'm going to find my real franchise, my new life. I did my research, and my research told me, you know, find something that you love, that people will pay for, that you're passionate about. So I grew up in a household where my dad was an amateur jazz pianist, and I grew up on music. I love music. Coltrane, Billie Holiday, Miles Davis, all that fun stuff, right? I said, well, okay, I can see this. I'm going to do something in music. So I found me a CD warehouse. I don't even know if they're around anymore. Probably gone, right? And basically it's a room full of music, some video, all that fun stuff. And I pictured myself in a Barca lounger in the back corner with a big cigar and a bottle of cognac, and sitting there talking to people as they come in about all this jazz and music and where music is going, where it's been, got music on the thing. Great, just did all the paperwork, sent my stuff to the bank. I'm waiting for closing. It's about a week away, and I'm sitting at Compaq, and my friend comes over. I say, hey, haven't seen you for a while. Where you been? He says, oh, I was up in Microsoft. Cool, what's happening up there? They're going to monetize music and video across the internet, And I'm thinking, well, would I rather stay home in my boxer shorts and download music, or have to get up, get dressed, get my car, drive it? I'm thinking, you know, home, boxer shorts, yeah, that's a much better plan. So I left my lunch and I went out and I picked up the phone and I called the CEO from CD Warehouse and I said, hey, I just heard this, right? So what's kind of your strategy? Where are you going to go? You know, how do you think it's going to affect the marketplace? And he said, people will always want to come to our store and shop for music. And I'm like, yeah, do you mind? And so I shut down that deal. And I walked away from it. And that got me to thinking, I wonder how often this happens to everybody every day. Somebody's interested in starting a business and they go out and buy a blockbuster video and voila, it's gone, right? The next day it's gone and they've lost their life savings and all that stuff. So I started doing some more and more research on franchising. And I really got to understand franchising and all that fun stuff. And this is basically what it is, right? Franchising is not a thing, it's a strategy, right? It's a way to replicate a business process over and over again to dominate a marketplace, right? As an entrepreneur, you pay a franchise fee. For that franchise fee, you get to use the brand. You get a proven model. You get training and SOP. You get startup support and ongoing support for the life of the contract of that franchise, right? And what the franchise is looking for is an entrepreneur, right? Somebody who has local insight. If you decide to buy a McDonald's, you go to Hamburger University for your training. It's somewhere in Florida, right? But they don't know anything about San Antonio or Killeen or Houston. They want somebody who's got local insight, who's part of the Chamber of Commerce, who knows the schools, who knows the businesses, and can execute their vision in their local area. They want somebody who's passionate about McDonald's brand and theme and what they do. And then for that, you kick back royalties to the franchise. Now, a lot of people think franchises make money off franchise fees. They do not. The franchise fee is kind of your, ticket to ride, right? The amount of stuff that you get for your franchise fee is much more than what the franchise fee is. For example, Subway's franchise fee is $25,000. You get a website, you get marketing, national and local marketing, all these things to open up your Subway restaurant. Right? The franchisor doesn't make any money off that. They've spent that before you actually get the training, right? This is where they make their money. So if you're not successful as a franchisee, they are losing money. So it's in their best interest to make sure that they're giving you all the tools and resources that you need in order to be successful in the marketplace, right? So you can accelerate your success using that model. So I always like to back up things with facts and stats, right? Average business has a failure rate 50% within the same time frame as franchises. Most franchise owners still have their business after 5 years in the range of 60 to 70%, right? They grow faster, higher profitability compared to an entrepreneurial business because they've already figured all the things out, right? So I always like this question. So I'm going to ask you, what's the largest franchise model in the world? Wild guess. Give me a swag. Okay. Subway, McDonald's. I hear Walmart, although it's not a franchise. Chick-fil-A, although that's a separate conversation right there. Right? But nobody ever says the largest franchise model in the world is the U.S. military. Right? Think about it. When you decided to join the military, what's the first thing you did? I mean, but the recruiter convinced you. What'd you do? You decided to sign a contract. Did you put up an equity injection? Exactly, right? So your equity injection is you gave Uncle Sam a blank check, right? Cashable on demand that says, I will run towards the bullets when you tell me to, right? And then when you got done with that, they sent you off to boot camp, right? What did you learn in boot camp? How to represent a brand. You went to Army boot camp, you came back, you had a nice little Army uniform on, right? Sailor had the little funny hat and the little whites, the little blue tie. Right? Marines, of course, have the best uniform, but we don't have to go there. And then we got the Air Force as well, right? Do they give you Marriott points right out of boot camp? So you learn how to represent the brand, how to walk, talk, eat, smoke in a military proficient manner, general order, chain of command, right? And then you go off to your military occupational specialty training, right? If you're going to be flying helicopters, you're not learning how to make cream chip beef on toast, right? If you're learning how to make that stuff, then you're not learning how to shoot artillery, right? They teach you how to do a specific function, right? Give you all the manuals and all that fun stuff. And then when you're done with training, they send you off to wherever you're going to do your thing, right? And you go to your assigned spot and you start working on whatever it is you're working on, right? And something comes across your desk. You say, oh, well, I saw that in the training manual. Let me look that up. Okay, I can do this, right? And eventually something comes across your desk that you have no idea what to do with. Check the training manual, check the SOP. Now call the boss over. Hey, boss, I don't know what to do with this. The boss says, did you check your books? Yes, I checked the books. And then the boss looks at you and says, okay, let's run this up the chain of command so we get all the information back that we need to execute this mission. Right? That is the way every single franchise in the world works, and why franchisers love veterans, right? Ability to follow a procedure, standard operating procedure. Everybody knows that. Ability to work under pressure. I don't know a vet in my lifetime that has not worked under pressure, right? One pressure or another, right? Leadership skills, right? Because you are leading a team, right? You are representing a brand. You are part of a community of other franchises because you are not alone out there, right? And then ability to work hard, right? We do a lot of hurry up and wait, but when we're not waiting, we're working hard, right? And it's proven out in the numbers. So a veteran-owned franchise has generated 5x revenue of a veteran startup business. So numbers taken into consideration, right? Now, we always talk food, McDonald's, Wendy's, Subway, because people recognize franchises in mostly food services. But there are literally franchises in every industry and category that you can think of, except for gambling and guns, right? Guns are coming. So it's going to be just down to gambling, right? So if you're looking to start a business in any of these, part of your research, part of your competitive research is to understand what franchises are in your category, in your industry sector, and to see how they're doing their business so you can see how to better do yours, right? So not just burgers and fries, it's all over the place. Right? Now, I get a call at least once a week, if not twice. So I want to own a Chick-fil-A, right? And understanding franchising is understanding that there are different models available. You can't own a Chick-fil-A. I don't care how much money you get. You can operate a Chick-fil-A. It's called an executive operator model. You will pay them for training. They will train you. They will assign you to a restaurant. You will run that restaurant for as long as you want to. You will share in the profit. But when you leave, you take nothing with you at all. You have no equity in the business at all, and you just walk away. If you're thinking about opening a restaurant one day, great training facility. Chick-fil-A is probably one of the best restaurants out there right now as far as customer service and how they do their business, right? But you can't own one. Business license. This is the scary one, right? Because this is an unregulated area of franchising, what they call it. This is merely buying the intellectual properties and getting trained on a specific thing, like medical billing. They will teach you how to do medical billing, but they will not teach you how to run a medical billing business, right? So when you call them up and you say, I can't find any customers, they say, are you having any problems with the medical coding? And you say, no, the medical coding is fine, but I have nobody to code for. It says, well, we deal with the medical. We taught you how to medical code, not how to go get customers. So this is kind of the scary one you have to be really careful of. CrossFit gyms is one of those. If you open up a fitness facility, you go to CrossFit, and you say, hey, I want to do CrossFit in my gym. They will sell you all the programs and all the training and all that fun stuff, but they won't help you get anybody in your gym. Right? McDonald's is the quintessential franchise. It's called business format franchising. You pay a fee, you get their patents and trademarks, training, support. Now, it's McDonald's. If you want to sell hot dogs, you don't want to buy McDonald's, right? You go buy Johnny Rockets, right? They have strict adherence to their rules, regulations, policies, what they sell, how they sell it, and all that fun stuff, right? If you try and sell hot dogs at McDonald's, you'll get a visit from Ronald and the Hamburglar, and they will kick your butt. Right? So this adheres to very specific things. So know which one that you're getting involved with, so you know exactly what the rules of engagement are for that particular business. Right? So there are multiple ways to leverage franchising for your business. You can use it as a startup. Right? So I've never run a business before. I really want to be careful. I want to mitigate my financial risk. Great way to start up a business. I don't know an entrepreneur in my lifetime that owns one business, right? You get that first one, you figure it out, and then you start the next one, and you figure that one out, and then you start another one. And as you go through your life, you have multiple businesses doing multiple things because it's really engaging and addictive to start a business and watch it succeed, right? You can use it to grow your business. If you already have a business, right, and you say, well, I really like to open my business in another state. We're here in San Antonio, so I started my business in San Antonio. I want to have another office in Dallas. I want to have another one in Houston. Well, that's operating capital intensive if you're going to rebuild the business. Well, what if you can help somebody else build a similar business, build the same business using your brand name, your techniques, your standard operating procedures, and they'll pay you for it. You train them, and then you have your brand move to Dallas, and then you have another one move to Houston, right? And people are willing to do that as a way to get into the startup business. And then, listen, I've been in this business for 50 years. I want out, right? It's still a great business, but I want out. You can actually find a franchise development company, and they will buy your concept from you. And then every month you'll get a royalty check from them because they're building your franchise for you, right? So different ways of leveraging the franchise model that you can consider. So how do you know, I love this slide, right? So how do you know what franchise is right for you, right? There are so many opportunities out there. Like I mentioned, not just burgers and fries, right? They are all over the map, right? If you Google it, you will get 174 million results in less than a half a second, right? And you can spend time going through these one at a time. And by the time you're 80, 90 years old, you say, I found my franchise and I'm ready to go, right? But this is where veteran franchise comes in, and there are other franchise advisors out there, is helping find the right opportunity for you. I'll give you a great example. A gentleman came to me, I don't know how many years ago, and he said, I really love to make smoothies. Smoothies is my thing. I can make some mean smoothies. I want to buy me a Smoothie King. And I said, okay, so tell me about, your life. He says, well, I'm married, got a couple of kids. I like to take the kids out fishing, like to spend family time with you. So now you're thinking about a smoothie franchise. What time does smoothie franchise open? Oh, it opens about 8 a.m. Right? Morning smoothies. Right? So what time do you have to get there? Oh, I'd probably have to get there about 6. What time do they close? Oh, they close about 10. And after they close, you got to do some cleanup and stuff. So you could probably be there until about midnight. So, and how many days is it open? 7 days a week. Okay, so you're going to spend 14, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. How do kids and fishing fit into this? And he was like, oh, that was a good question, right? So after talking to him some more, looking at an investment, what he'd like to do and how he wanted to live his life, he bought a bouncy house franchise, right? And he had options, right? If the people called him and said, hey, I'm throwing a party, I want a bouncy house, he can throw the bouncy house in the back of his pickup truck, drive over there, set it up in the morning, kids in the car with the fishing poles, drive out, go fishing all day, come back, pick up the bouncy house, get a check, and keep on going, right? And if he didn't want to do it, he was like, okay, now call this other guy. He's got a bouncy house too. So that fit his lifestyle. And that's the thing that we want to understand and help you select the right solution for you, right? So we'll help reduce research time, right? We provide value information about the business of franchising, education, what is franchising, how it works, what to look out for, pros and cons. We have tools to help in your selection process. So one of the big questions I always like to ask people, okay, so you got a franchisor on the phone. What are you going to ask him, right? Well, I've got 30 of the top frequently asked questions about what to ask franchises. And it gives you an apples to apples comparison when you're looking at multiple franchises, right? Guidance on business structure. But all this is really helpful. One of the things that I love to talk about is I go to franchise expos. Once a year, I go to the Javits Center in New York. There's one in California. There's one coming to Houston here, actually coming to Austin later on this year. And I get to sit down with the CEOs, and it's amazing what you learn over a bourbon and a cigar. Okay, especially that second bourbon, right? you learn stuff, right? And you make sure that when you're talking to people about franchising, you have that inside information as an advisor to counsel them from investing in something that's not going to be around long or that's not suitable to their skill set, right? A lot of people want to buy restaurants because I love to cook. If you own a restaurant, you spend zero time cooking, okay? Because you have to run the front of the house. If there's a bar, you got to make sure that the bar, you make spoilage, inventory, surplus, yet transitional employees that are coming in and out. So you never get to cook, right? Unless you want to trust somebody else to run the front of the house and all that fun stuff. But then, you know, when you trust other people with your money, you tend to lose your money, right? So that's what advisors do. And there's veteran franchise advisors. We've been around for 15 years now. We started in 2010. We really love what we do. We love helping veterans find their transition on the other side of the gate. One of the things that I think that veterans miss, I know when I transitioned out of the Marine Corps, one of the things I missed is I missed my what we call my battle buddy, right? My fire team, you know, the guys I've trained with and worked with every day, my squad, my platoon, my company, right? We were all a community together, right? And then when you leave, you lose that sense of community. Franchising kind of brings a little bit of that community back because you own a franchise, the guy down the street, he owns the same franchise, this guy over here owns the franchise, even if he's in another state, you guys can all collaborate together on how to improve your business, how to make it more efficient. And that's some of the things that you get in the franchise world, right? Now, with all things, there's good and there's bad. There's the yin and yang of things, right? So what we talked about primarily is about the advantage, proven business model, brand recognition, national and regional marketing, ongoing support, startup support, and all the things that you get from that. The disadvantages are pretty simple, right? You're not completely independent. You are working within a franchise structure. You're working within a model. It comes with a contract, right? You are under contract. You cannot wake up one day like I thought I could in boot camp. We had a free Sunday. You know, I was in Marine Corps boot camp. I think it was like week 3 or week 4. And occasionally we get some free time to shine our boots, you know, do some things. It was a Sunday. Went to my senior drill instructor. I said, "Sir, I'm not sure I made the right decision here. I'm not sure this is the right place for me." And he said, "That's interesting." He said, "Son, what do you think USMC stands for?" I said, "United States Marine Corps, sir." He said, No, you signed mom's contract. Now go away." Right? This is a contract. You cannot wake up and decide, I don't want to do this anymore, right? Now, franchise is there to help you be successful, to ensure your success. Like, as I said before, if you're not successful, they're not successful. So that's the disadvantage. You are under contract. Understand that when you sign those papers, you've committed to do what they're telling you to do, right? There's ongoing fees, royalties. They might have a proprietary software system or POS system or something like that. Make sure you understand all the fees that go into that, that you have to pay on a monthly basis. Very, very important, right? So, few things are more exciting than starting your own business. I say there's nothing more exciting than starting your own business. I've had people come to me and says, well, having my kids was more exciting. I'm saying you're wrong. But that's just my opinion, okay? Kids, they come back to haunt you. Businesses, they just give you money, right? So your emotions will run high and low. And this is why having a good team is important. Having an advisor is important because they're going to keep you even keel, right? When you decide that you want to get into business, you're so excited, you run around, you tell everybody, and they say, so let me see your business plan. Then you're not excited anymore. I got to sit down, I got to write a business plan. I love to ask the question, what's more intimidating, your first drill instructor or writing your first business plan? For me, it was writing my first business plan. My drill instructor was tough, but he wasn't that tough, right? So it's a high and low experience. You got the business plan done. You go run to the bank. You say, banker, I've got the really great business idea. Here's my plan. And the banker looks at it and says, nah, thanks. That's not for me, right? Don't tell you why, just no, right? So back down in the dumps and you have to figure all this stuff out. So it's a peak and valley experience. Your lawyer, your accountant, your score mentor, your SBDC people, all the people that you can put around you to give you the information you need so you can figure out some of the I don't know what I don't know will keep you even keel. Ask every question possible. There's no such thing as a dumb question other than the one that you don't ask. The more you ask, the more you'll know, right? Do your due diligence. Whether it's your business or somebody else's, make sure you go to market and you do your due diligence. There's something that's called an MVP, the minimum viable product. It's kind of like, you guys probably don't remember Windows 3.1. It was a long time ago, right? But that was an MVP. They had 1, they had 2, and then finally they came out with 3. Actually, it was 3.0, right? And it was just good enough to get out in the marketplace and start working, right? Now, many, many years later, I don't even know, we're on Windows 11 now, 14, 17, I don't know what version we're on, but it keeps getting incrementally better based on the feedback that you get from the thing. So put your product out there, get some feedback, improve it. Minimum viable means that people are willing to pay for it, but they're also willing to give you feedback on how it sucks, right? And how to make it better. Right? Franchises have these really cool things called discovery days. You get on a train, plane, or automobile, you actually get to fly out and sit down with the CEO, CFO, CMO, support team, training team, and they're going to tell you all the ways they're going to help you be successful. One of the things I always tell people to measure is, does this person, does this company share my mission, vision, values, and goals? If any one of those are missing, you're probably going to have some contention in your partnership, right? I don't care whether you start your own business, you're doing a franchise, you need to have a business plan, right? Business plan, business plan, business plan. Can't tell you enough business plan. Got to write one, right? It's easier to write a business plan for a franchise because 85% of the information is in what they call the franchise disclosure document, which is released every year. It's regulated by the Federal Trade Commission, so it has to be updated every year. And this is one of the things that you can find out is if you look at item 20, it's in the same of every franchise. It'll give you a list of franchises that they have opened, a list of franchises they have closed, a list of franchises they have transferred. Now, if you open it up and it says, we rolled out 20 franchises last year and we closed 15. Is that a good franchise for you? Probably not. It's probably not a good franchise for anybody, right? So all that information is documented. The franchise disclosure document is 23 specific items, and you can look at them all. They all look exactly the same, right? Then you call other franchises, other franchisees. Item 21, turn the page, and there'll actually be a list of franchisees in there. And you pick up the phone and you call them up and ask them how their business was. How long did it take to get the revenue? What's some of the challenges you faced? You know, what went right, what went wrong? The question I always like to ask when I do these interviews is, would you do it over again? And if there's the slightest hesitation in their voice, we have a whole different conversation. Right? Unless they say, yeah, I would absolutely do this. Cool. Good to know. Great talking. I'm not. Well, maybe. Okay, let's have another conversation, right? So what is it that's giving you hesitation, right? So that's an opportunity that you get to do with franchises. When you open your own business, you open a plumbing business, you pick up the phone, you call the plumber down the street and say, "How do you do your pricing?" He's going to laugh and hang up the phone, right? So good to know. So as I mentioned, celebrating 15 years in business, I've been helping veterans get into all of these plus some more. These are some of my more memorable ones, and they're all over the board, as you can see. Everything from drug testing labs to tap out fitness to L&L Hawaiian barbecue. Anybody who's been in the Army and has been to Hawaii knows L&L, right? They're the only ones who make Spam taste good. Okay. So any questions online, any questions in the audience, some recommended reading for you. This is number one, The E-Myth, Revisited, Why Most Small Businesses Fail and What to Do About It. This is a great book. I don't care which direction you're going in. It's a great book to read. If you're military and you're getting ready to transition out of the military, or if you're looking to get out of your job and start a business, this is a great white paper. It's very short, to the point. It's about dealing with change, right? One of the most difficult things for veterans is transitioning out of the military, their known, warm, soft, comfy environment, and stepping in the civilian world. It's a whole different world on the other side of the gate, and it's something that you need to prepare for, right? And then some other stuff, Find Your Why, Insider's Guide, Consumer Guide to Buying a Franchise, all that fun stuff. These all help you get through. Got some success stories behind me. If you're ever in Waco and you want your truck bulletproof, go see Ed Wilfong. He owns a Linex, and he has been he had a great time. It was hard getting there, but it was great. Once he got on, he's still up and running. He's doing wonderful. He loves the business that he's in. And Nate bought 1 9-round and in San Diego. That's a boutique fitness facility. They have 9 stations, and basically you go to station 1, you get workout. You go to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, get out. Right? He bought 1, and then he bought 3 more. And then he packaged them all up and sold them. And he went off to do some aviation stuff, because that was the other thing that he loved in his life. Right. So, veteran franchise advisors by veterans for veterans. If you need help in exploring franchising as an opportunity, please reach out. You can scan the barcode if you can see it on the screen, or you can email me on the information on Hoover. Be more than happy to talk to anybody.
Wait,
Questions in-house?
I have a question for you.
Shoot.
So you were talking about the franchising operator model with Chick-fil-A. Why would you want to do that? And what is the downside? We heard the downside that you don't really own it, right?
Yes.
Like, is your capital investment gone once you say goodbye?
Well, the only investment that you have is a training fee. I think it's either $10,000 or $15,000. That's really the only investment that you make. Why you would want to own that is because it is the best training ground you can possibly get, right? So it's a great way to learn about the business, be involved, learn how to manage transient employees, right? Because most of the people work at Chick-fil-A, they're 17, 18, 19 years old. They work a year. They go off to college. They work during the summer break, whatever. So you get to manage the people, learn to hire and fire, learn to manage the resources, right? So for $10,000, $15,000, it's a great training, right? And the average Chick-fil-A operator makes 6 figures a year starting with a 2.
What's the ideal candidate to own a franchise when you look at the veteran or military connected community?
Oh, and anybody in the military. You're gonna come join me up here? Oh no, you're gonna stand behind me. Okay. So ideal franchisee, ability to follow standard operating procedures. That's pretty much it, right? Willing to play by the book, right? Willing to be a leader because you're not only leading your company, but you're also leading within the franchise community. So that's kind of the ideal guy.
All right, we have more questions.
You have more questions? Shoot.
So I looked into buying a franchise, and there's like established franchises that you see where, you know, it's the larger franchise fee, high net worth requirement. And then there's the smaller ones where it's like pretty cheap, you know, a couple tens of thousands of dollars for the fee and low net worth requirement. But also they don't really have the brand name behind them. So I always like kind of stayed away from those. Do you feel like there's a difference between those, or is it just perception as a consumer because you're not familiar with the brand?
I think it's really a lot about perception, about what you're willing to do, right? One of the questions I love to ask is, are you willing to build a brand, right? Because getting into an emerging franchise is part of your responsibility to help build that brand, help bring that brand to life. So, and as things change, consumers' needs change, right? So there's a franchise called iPhone Fix. Didn't exist 10 years ago, but when they first started, it was like, nobody knows this brand. But now, I dropped my iPhone, the glass shatters, I know to run over to iPhone Fix, and I give them my 45 minutes, they got me a new screen. Well, it's all better now, right? Blockbuster Video, if you bought it 2 years before they went, yeah, it was a huge franchise, great market, right? They dominated the space, right? You need brick and mortar. It was about a $350,000, $400,000 investment, but 2 years later, it was gone, right? Netflix, Redbox, Microsoft, all those guys got to put them out of business. So it's really about what you want to do, what your investment capabilities are, right? And then are you asking that question, can I and will I do that? Am I willing to go out and help a company build this brand?
And then my other question is, what would you say is the most important section of the FDD? Like first place you want to go look when you look at it?
Wow, the first place you want to go look, investment. Item 567.
Okay, thank you.
We good? Anybody else? Air Force back there got questions? No, we're good. I just killed it, nailed it all. Excellent.
What are some of the franchises you would steer away from? Just general, 2 or 3 franchises where you're like, these are really.
That's a research project I wouldn't answer on camera anyway.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Well, thank you, Rich, for coming and teaching us about franchising. I appreciate
Thank
you.
you so much.
A token of appreciation.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is it bourbon and cigars?
No,
Ah.
yeah, we don't. We'll stay here for pictures.
Thank you all. I wish you best of luck on your endeavors.
All right, got the photo. Everybody together. 1, 2, 3.
Here, real quick.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was like the theme throughout your whole story.